Welcome to the den, the Dingus Den.
Welcome to the Dingus Den for a brand new episode where we're here to talk about Absolute Batman issue 1. Very excited to talk about this and get into it with good friend, comic book friend. Oh my gosh, comic book fan. How are you doing today?
I'm doing great. I'm doing great. Thank you for welcoming me back for another time to talk about another ultimate type of issue, another kind of different version of Batman. We talked about Spider-Man before. Now we're doing Batman, and it's great to do. Just finished reading it. It was great, and yeah, great to summarize it and discuss it. Yeah, I'm glad to be here.
Yeah, absolutely. Excited to have you back to talk about, like I said, I got my copy here, Absolute Batman. And yeah, this book is absolutely great. And so beginning part of DC's All In Initiative, where all of this month during the All In Initiative, any book is a starting point. Obviously, any issue 1 is a starting point, but any of the mainline books is a starting point. This spins off from the DC All In special, which kind of set up a little bit about how this universe is created. But as far as we need to know about going this book, it's part of their new universe, this new Absolute universe, which is a bit like Marvel's Ultimate Universe in some regards. And so this is like DC's big take on like, what if we tried to do our own Ultimate Universe? They have a bunch of headliners writing all this stuff, and so yeah, let's get into this first issue though, which is titled Zoo Part 1, written by actually one of my personal favorite comic writers, Scott Snyder, and then the artist, I believe his name is Nick Dragotta or something like that. Anyway, he does absolutely great art throughout this as well. And so let's get into this Absolute Batman issue 1. It begins where we see a young Bruce Wayne on the school trip, where he's looking at this sort of like info plaque about bats. Don't scare the bats. Can't take pictures of them. Be respectful. Blah blah blah. Because he's taking his little school trip here, and so and then we see somebody telling him, "Oh, there'll be time for bats later, Bruce. Come on, keep on. Let's go." And so anyway, cut forward to the present, where we see somebody on a motorcycle. This person's having this monologue about how Gotham has changed for the worse, and then it's revealed that this person is Alfred Pennyworth, who's returned to his old apartment with the mission to gain intel on this new gang in town or in Gotham known as the Party Animals, which is a new gang. Like I said, they're just causing havoc here in Gotham. Alfred then heads out to go to his mission, and then finds that his fancy bike that he was just riding into town with, is stolen. Next, we go over to Croc's gym, where we see somebody training, but then Bruce shows up, and he starts pounding on the punching bag. And while he's like pounding on the training bag here, we get the we have like these moments of flashback of where we see go back to the zoo. We specifically see in this flashback that it's revealed that actually it's his father is the teacher here, and then it ends with just a big a blam, like a gunshot, and then with that we see Bruce destroy the punching bag, and that's where we now find Waylon holding a little crocodile. Waylon's then trying to like get Bruce to be a little more social, as they've known each other for a bit, you can tell. Also worth noting too that he like drops references to some other famous characters. We'll get back to this in a bit, but he drops references to Eddie, Harvey, Oz, and Selena, and then we see a picture of like all these orphans. So but anyway, continuing onwards, we then cut to see Black Mask. Very different sort of like Black Mask here, right? We're meeting with Mr. Maroney and Mr. Falcone. where Maroni and Falcone are trying to set these standards about, like, listen, we're the main gangs in Gotham, so don't be coming in here and screwing things up here, Mr. Black Mask and your party animals, right? And so then Black Mask shows off all these faces of like people that he's like collected, like some historical figures, and then like another, I think it was like another Maroni or Falcone or something like that. And then his servants just murder the Maroni and Falcone that came there, and yeah. So anyway, we go off to town hall now, where we now see Mayor Jim Gordon giving an emergency briefing over what to do about the party animals. Alfred is watching over outside. He sees the party animals approaching the town hall, but he's told not to interfere. Because Alfred's like an agent here. There's this person that always talks to him and whatnot. And so anyway, he's told, you just have to observe what's going on with the party animals here. Don't interfere. So we see a trio of them enter town hall, fire a few shots, but then suddenly they just get yanked out. By who? By who else other than Batman? Who they then focus fire on him as he like wraps himself like as a bat would, and he then goes on this absolute rampage. We get this freaking awesome fight scene here, wonderful art here, where we just see him use his wings as weapons. At one point, he takes off his ears and throws them as batarangs. Then he'll pick them back up and just put them back in, and and then he takes off his symbol from his chest and uses it as an axe to cut off somebody's hand. Absolutely wild. And anyway, after this rampage, he just yells, "Out of my way!" Which suddenly he scares off the rest of the party animals. And Alfred is told to engage, since Batman is screwing with the party animals here. And so Alfred then comes in close range with a shotgun, which then Batman then disarms him, steals the gun, and then disappears, just as Batman does. You know, classic Batman style there. Anyway, we get another Alfred monologue where we find out that Batman is Bruce Wayne. We found out a bit more about his background as well, about how he grew up in Crime Alley. He was tested near genius level as a kid, which led him to make this project about replicating like bat wings to help with something. But anyway, that led to winning his class to do the special school zoo trip. Where and then we get a little more of this flashback about where there's this random shooter on site there. I don't want to say random, but we'll get back to that later. But we see there's a shooter on site there. We see Thomas Wayne, teacher there, sacrifice himself so the students are safe. As he closes the students in the bat enclosure, so they're safe there. But then we see Bruce loses himself after that. After that incident, and so he goes back. But then he does get himself together. He goes back to school, but then he learns very specific things, such as it specifically lists applied mechanics, chemistry, criminal psychology, military theory, sociological history, a bunch of interesting details there that it gives. And so anyway, Bruce then goes through a few jobs until he settles on being an engineer, where he works on like big buildings up in the city, like, the big skyscrapers of Gotham, right? And so he finds so anyway, Alfred goes out and finds Bruce visiting his mother, where Alfred has the option to end him right now, since he is told about, don't let Batman interfere, engage. However, he doesn't do anything because he's like, you know what, he's just a kid. And so, but anyway, cut to the Batcave, where high up on the building, where Batcave here is like high up on the building. It's not an actual cave here. It's some like set up on top high on the building, right? Where Bruce then gets interrupted by while he's doing this recording of like his findings and stuff. But anyway, he gets interrupted by Alfred, who's he comes in there. He's trying to like talk to him a bit, but then I don't remember what Alfred's purpose was here. But we see Bruce is already suited back up as Batman, and then Alfred shoots Alfred with a shotgun, that you remember that he stole. But it turns out that he actually rigged it so it has like these tiny little like bats, like tiny little batarangs hit him with it. And then uh Batman gets on the bike. That was Alfred's, and then ends up riding off the building. And then we have like Alfred monologue bits of this as well, and the closing line of this section here sums it up. I really like here, and it says, "And I think to myself, maybe you're not so bad these days, Gotham." As we can tell, Batman's getting to Alfred here about what he's doing here for Gotham. But we got a one-page epilogue here that shows off a couple of things. First, we see Alfred again, where he's finds out that the previous mission that he spent years on before going back to Gotham, which was hinted at early in the issue, but he got word that that officially came to a dead end. So essentially, years wasted. I think it said 5 years, essentially wasted now because of his mission of how he had to come here for Gotham. But then we got a cut to Manila, where we're introduced to one of the richest people in the world. However, people are around to joke around him because he never laughs. Because they call him the Joker. There we have it. That was a lot, because this is, I feel like, a great bang for your buck of an issue one right here, filled with all sorts of wonderful stuff here. Absolutely wonderful. What did you think of this issue, comic?
I was like you. I didn't know what they were going to do. There's a lot of surprises. There's a lot of things that we're going to do. I've never read like where they've done like an ultimate version of Batman before. It's
Mm-hmm.
kind of nice seeing all the differences. The beginning struck me. I didn't know who was monologuing at first. Was it going to be Bruce Wayne or not? The
Mm-hmm.
Alfred looks completely different. Looks like a badass. Looks completely a
Right?
little bit like
Yeah.
Ra's al Ghul. He's got like the salt and pepper beard there, and then you find out he's actually Alfred, and it's just everything's changed. Bruce Wayne's not rich. He hold up construction in the construction site. He's done everything himself. His dad has died, but his mom is still alive, which is kind of different. And it's also like everything is just about how Batman looks. His cape is used more as a weapon, as his ears, his on his chest. That was interesting. I didn't know. I thought it was a shovel at first. I didn't know it was an axe. But just really, and there's lots of violence in it. But Batman sticks to his code. He doesn't kill people. He intimidates. He doesn't let that happen. And it was really nice how they were just laying the ground rules and just doing these nice little spins. We got like a version of Killer Croc who was actually friends with Bruce Wayne. We got, like, as you said, references to Harvey Dent, Cena Kyle, RZ, and it was just a fun ride. When you see Batman actually show up, he does the whole business, and I like the look of Gotham as well. I think it reminded me a bit of from when you saw Up High. It looked a bit like Christopher Nolan's Gotham, a little bit surrounded by the water and everything like that. And but then the monologue also reminded me of Pattinson's Batman, but in a good way. And it was, yeah, it was just really like full paced, fast action, and it was a lot of surprises. And I think that ending as well, that last page prologue with the Joker, where they're making a Joker who doesn't laugh, who doesn't seem to be find jokes funny, but he's called a Joker, and he's rich, so it's different. You had Bruce Wayne who's kind of on the streets, and Joker is as we assume, the rich guy, which makes it a different. When they finally meet, what's it going to be like? What's the dynamic going to be like?
Yeah.
What will he have access to that Batman doesn't? And I like that Batman's more like a mechanic. He's traveled the world more. He's used his brains more. Doesn't have anything to hold on to. And the introduction of Alfred and Bruce Wayne, how they're going to be kind of in the future, what their dynamic will be. Because Alfred is more like, fit, strong, fights more of the soldier that we've
Mm-hmm.
seen like in as his past. So I dug it. I really liked it. When I got to the end of the issue, I was like, I'd read this again. I can't wait for what's happening next. So yeah,
Yeah.
great read.
Yeah, I really liked it as well. I mean, it's great, right? 'Cause so many people are calling it like DC issue of the year, and it's like the more I think about it, I'm like, I guess that it would be, right? Because it's like, what other really big first issue has there been that's really like this great this year? It's I think what's important about when you get into these alternate stories is you have to figure out how to make it unique, but then also have the characters still represent who they are, right? And I think it's one of those things that's just easier said than done, right? Uh, Especially when you're approaching something so rich, when you approach the mythology of Batman, right? And so it's, uh, I think it just shows though, Scott Snyder, I think he really understands Batman. I think he did a pretty good job overall with the new 52 Batman, and so it's very exciting for me, at least, since because as I mentioned earlier, he's one of my favorite writers, and so it's really exciting to see him working back on Batman, but then not being restricted to like the modern Batman, right? Being able to apply all these different changed aspects to Batman and all that too, because it's like Alfred, it really works, right? Just because of Alfred being an agent there, which isn't necessarily, it's not a new idea for Alfred. Like, we've seen him be special services sort of thing, right? Before with, especially like when I think of like Alfred like that, I think of the Alfred from what we've seen in the show Gotham, right? And, there's been history of him and stuff and comics and such as well. And so it's really cool to actually see that fully expanded upon, of like this idea of, you really hit it earlier, of it's going to be really interesting to see how the seeing how it's going to grow, of how different like Bruce and Joker are, right? Because their roles in society are flipped from the beginning here, right? Like, it's an interesting idea to see, like, what if Batman was a nobody versus being a somebody at first, of being a son of what were they, millionaire, billionaire, whatever they'd be, And so it's really interesting to see how it's all going to come together, and something that really stood out to me with all this is all the world building at the beginning of it, right? Like, you just have so much world building of setting up this new Gotham and everything there. Lots of different bits into it, and so it really is a great issue one. Honestly, just going through into everything there, it's wonderful. Um, but yeah, Alfred's great. It really fits for him. Something I do want to get into here as well is, we see Croc's gym, right? And where we can tell, I guess, I can't. It doesn't really say, but I guess it seems like he, I guess, would own it. Waylon there, holding a Croc. Fun nod there to, everybody knows Waylon as Killer Croc, right? And so, cool to see the nod there. Seeing his character evolved, and I'm really looking forward to later on meeting these other orphans that set up, right? Because we have the picture of everybody here, right? We see Eddie, Harvey, Oz, and Selena all here as a picture where they're all orphans. So, yeah, that's gonna be fun references to other characters that we see later on, because we know how, those characters representing the rogues gallery, obviously, of what modern Batman's done, or regular Batman, right? And so it'll be very, very interesting to see how other iconic characters like that comes to play into it. And so, like, I really like there's little teases like that going on as well, which I really appreciate. Um, we had just a little tease of Black Mask, which is really interesting in this too. He has like quite a bulbous head that those guys has, almost like a magic 8-ball, or what do you want to say, bowling ball head almost. I don't know, but that's quite interesting there, and but yeah, cool pick for Black Mask to be beginning there. It's a very fitting villain, like a somewhat very, I'd say, like, it's a familiar villain to have as like this sort of beginning villain, like, um takes me back to Arkham Origins, and so we'll see, how different he is compared to it. Like, so far, we've seen that he just doesn't mess around, because he takes the whole mask idea very seriously here. But we'll see how else he really is different there. Absolutely love how brutal uh Batman is, so violent, but then also he's just like, well, he still doesn't kill. He's still Batman here. He just screws them up. He's teaching them a lesson, all right? They don't have a lesson to be taught if they're dead. So, just saying. um but yeah, and then the biggest thing that kind of like after I read this that I was and I want your thoughts on this is what right after I read this, there's kind of one moment in particular I was like, huh, something doesn't just completely line up for me here at the moment. And then I'm like, oh yeah, they'll probably expand on it later on. And that is the idea of the new origin here, right? The new origin of at the zoo, inspired by a bat and all that. I mean, prior to this, though, obviously, Bruce was very inspired by the bats anyways, with the invention that led to the zoo. So there's always something here with Bruce and bats. But that's not where I'm going to. What I'm getting to, though, is this zoo incident specifically, though, is how he lost his father. But it makes me wonder, though, it's like, the fact that there is a shooter at a zoo felt very off to me at a moment. You know what I mean? It's like it's very interesting there. And so when I first read this, I was like, wait, what? Why is there a shooter at a zoo? And then a little bit later, I was like, you know what? I feel like there's more going on there as to why that specifically happens. And so, what do you think about that aspect specifically?
Yeah, I didn't expect it to be like that would go into that. When he first said a zoo, I thought he was going to be showing something about bats, get his interest going and that. It's less. Uh, I think when he was in Crime Alley, it was more personal kind of thing. It's now more like opened up. Like it's not just him; it's more people. It doesn't really affect. It affects all of us. It could be a good thing. I mean, how will it be in the future? Who is this guy?
Mm-hmm.
How will there be other people who were there that will be affected? Will there be rogues gallery people that we know that will have a different
Mm.
spin on it? It's very different. It is a little bit kind of less personal, I think, and it can be kind of like realistic because you get like things that happen in real life, like stuff like that. So, but I'm interested in how it's going. But it was very I was expecting Crime Alley, like off like in the little alley. So yeah, when he talked about as well going to see Zorro with his mom, I thought, okay, this is just like a little flashback. But yeah, but we're actually seeing
Yeah.
the shooting take place, and you only saw glimpses of it.
Yeah.
You didn't see everything. Was this man specifically targeting Thomas Wayne? But then Thomas Wayne isn't like society now; he's just a teacher.
Yeah.
It's,
Yeah.
it's very different.
Yeah, like that's kind of like what stood out to me is it was just like I don't see a prime reason for that to occur in that moment, right? Like it's not like you're just out in some random back alley in Gotham where you could justify anybody hiding behind a dumpster coming out and being like, "I'm gonna mug you." Oh wait, sorry, you're dead now, right? And so, uh, it's very interesting, but that's why I feel like as if there's intentionally something else for it to be explored more, right? Because at the end of the day, this is just it's a great issue one that just sets up a lot to leave a lot of questions like this, right? Leaving several open ends to be explored later, and having all these different hints as you were just also talking about with the other like orphans here as well. And so it'll be very interesting. But it's also very interesting to see as well, because you're talking about Bruce's potential new motivation about it there, but then also seeing how his motivation is going to carry on as well when we see with his mother still being alive as well. So it's interesting though too to just as we find out more of his backstory, uh, because it's like, well, he grew close with orphans, although he's technically not an orphan though because he still has his mother that he's also close with. So it's going to be really interesting to see like how they connect with all of those, or why did he connect with all of them, uh, and then just yeah, there's a lot. There's just a lot that this sets up. That it's really just it's really just a great first issue. just because it's like there's so much to get into. And the big thing that I think a lot of first issues suffer from as well that really makes this one stand out among others for me is like I feel like so many first issues is just it's just setup, right? You have just setup, then once it finally gets to somewhere at the end, it's like okay, come tune in next issue, right? You know, and it's like darn it, just started picking up, but like they made sure to give you enough content. Or you know, bravo here, you know, Snyder and Nick working on this for where they made sure to be like, okay, not only are we having a bunch of setup here and a bunch of great shots showing everything of how it's all set up, but then also making sure you have your moments of action here. You have your moment to make Batman stand out in this too, which is absolutely wonderful as well, and absolutely brutal action though. And so it was just honestly, it was a great first issue where I can't wait to see where this series goes, and I'm really considering going all in for all, you know, pun intended here, to get into the rest of the Absolute universe. And this is it's a great start, and can't wait to see where it goes.
Yeah, I'm excited to see what they're going to do with Superman and Wonder Woman, which I wasn't going to get. I was just going to stick with Batman because there's so many. But now I've read this, what could happen next? What could happen next? Because I mean, this issue just, as you said, it just gets to the point. It sets up, but at the same time, it's a balance between we're going to see Batman. We get him like with the spikes on his back, his cape, his little axe, and
Yeah.
we get like the setup of the city and who could be what could be happening and stuff. And so I'm looking forward to Superman and the Wonder Woman one as well, and how it affects all the other issues we've got because All In is on everything. You got it on Flash, you got it on Batman. So how would that affect that as well? Because I've read the All In special, which I kind of loved,
Yeah,
and
yeah.
that was a roller coaster. That was a whirlwind of
Yeah, that
an issue.
was.
Like, you
Yes, that
flip
was.
it over, you get both sides. Yeah, it
Oh
was
yeah,
all
that
about
was.
Alpha and Omega. It's
Yes.
awesome. But I think I loved the Ultimate Spider-Man one as well, but that one was more slower paced. Like we didn't get to see Spider-Man a lot. This one is just like we're gonna show you Batman, we're gonna show you all the people set up, we're gonna give you little bits and niggles. So the writer that knows what he's doing. And even the zoo bits, it's a bit less personal as well, because it's how does that affect him, Bruce Batman? Because we're used to Thomas Wayne being, which he had access to everything. This is different. It
Yeah.
sets up a different story. It's not the Batman we know, which made it a surprising read. I did not expect this, and it was great, awesome.
Oh yeah, it was truly great. I can't wait to get into more of this and all that. Um, do you have any other closing thoughts on this issue before we get out of here?
Yeah, one thing I noticed when they talked about the Joker at the end, and they said the names, they said Jack and Arthur, which is that a callback to Joaquin Phoenix's Joker and Jack Nicholson's Joker? Because they named the names that the Jokers had in other Batman films, which I kind of was like, just like, oh, I wonder if that's an Easter egg, a reference
I didn't catch
to
that.
it.
That's a
Yeah,
good
well,
one because they're saying Jack Arthur. Hell, nobody knows his name. Which is
yeah,
very interesting there. Yeah, I didn't touch too much on this Joker, but I'm very interested to see uh this idea of having a Joker that doesn't laugh is very
yeah,
interesting. And so it's like
because you see,
it
you
makes me
see his face as well.
yeah,
It's
you
great.
do get a tiny glimpse of it, and it's gonna be very interesting to see because it's like, well, if you're making a character that's completely against what we know of as the Joker, how is he still the Joker? Is what I'm very curious about this, you know. So we'll see. We'll see. I believe Snyder will make it work, but we'll see. It's gonna be really interesting to see what happens. I can't wait and to see what's next. Absolutely. That good catcher though. I didn't catch that when I actually read that. That's a cool Easter egg there, actually. Really cool Easter egg. I think you're right about that being about Mr. Napier and Fleck there. So, but yeah, that's really cool. I also want to say as well, we got I really liked Alfred's role though here as well because this epilogue here as well, you know, is a kind of a two-part epilogue in a way, right? Because with Alfred, though, here, it's like we have Alfred now perfectly set up to where he has no motivation now to be anywhere else because of the main work that he focused on for 5 years now not mattering. It doesn't matter anymore. It's all to waste now, and so now he has a reason to now. And we also see by the end of this issue that he grows. He has appreciation for Batman, what to do now as well. So it's gonna be really interesting going forward as well to see how Alfred will, uh, you know, I guess try to find his way to work, but then he's gonna be like pushing back even more than what we saw against this voice that's talking to him. Be interesting to learn more about this organization that he's part of, but now he's perfectly set up to be, I guess, the sidekick to Batman in this world or something like that. Like, not just his butler, is what I'm getting to there. Because he's a badass now when Batman's also a badass. So, we'll see. Can't wait to see where all this goes. But yeah. Do you have anything else?
Yeah. Who is Alfred working for? Is what I would like to know. If that, I don't know if I missed it,
Or
if it's going to be.
I think that's an intentional open page
could be
here,
anyone.
because it's just we just see somebody like talking through him the entire time. Like, we know he's part of some special like ops or global ops or something, right? That finds people, and so it's just one of those threads in the story that, like, as we talked about, there's like just different threads in the story that's really like, what's the word you want to say? Like, just like hinted at or left open in a bit, or not left open, but lots to be explored, right? Just one of those many threads in this that's really shown. But yeah, no, we don't have an exact answer on that yet. So
Yeah, I also like the artwork on it as well. I think the artwork's really good. The way that these kind of Batcave looks, how high it goes in the sky. There's one panel when you see white pop up out of the sky. There's also a really good like action scene when he gets Alfred's bike through a window and he's just backdropped by the moon. It's like 11,000 feet up or something, and he's still just driving straight down. It's mad, but that's like a really good way to end it. And it's just the whole everything action, the violence. I mean, when he chops off the guy's hand as well. It's pretty cool story. I'm happy with it. I did not know going in blind that it was going to be this. There's a reason, there's an intent behind it. It's not just like a cash in. They've really thought about what they're doing, and as you said, Scott Snyder seems to know what he's doing with Batman, and adds a new fresh spin. But we still get that Batman. And as I said, I'm interested in the dynamic between Alfred and Batman, because he's not just going to be his butler. He's not going to be in the Batcave, giving him information with like soup. What's he going to do? Well, he's just as strong and intimidating as Bruce Wayne.
Yeah. To wrap up here, I wanna say I think this is a great introduction as we're talking about how this is all the opposites of each other, right? This absolute universe, without getting too much into what the DC All-In special does. It essentially sets up that this is a world kind of like powered a little bit more by like, it's not necessarily a bad universe, but it's like a universe that's kind of more inspired by like Darkseid, as if the main universe is more inspired by Hope, like Superman, right? And so this perfectly fits that idea of everything opposite with each other, and this first issue that Batman of Absolute Batman here really shows all that, right? Of just opposites of everything, but the characters still being the same. And so it's really interesting to see how that comes together. It'll be really interesting to see where all that goes in for the future, with next up being Absolute Wonder Woman, which is about Diana Prince being a princess from hell. And so that'll be very interesting to see. Can't wait for that. That looks awesome. And so, but yeah, Absolute Batman here was an absolutely great issue. Can't wait for more. And where can the people find you at?
They can find me on Twitch. I'm playing. I'm more than I usually am actually. Find me on Twitch. I'm playing Silent Hill 2. Going to be doing that in a minute actually. It's pretty dope game. And on Letterboxd as well, I'm also do reviews. And it's great to do. Love doing it. And yeah, it's been great talking about this. It's been awesome.
Yes. Thank you so much for coming by. You can find his Twitch channel down below. You can also find that the Dingus Den is on Twitch, as well as some socials, not all of them. Links to all that is down in the link tree down below. So go check out the Dingus Den socials so you don't miss when a video comes out. Be sure to subscribe, hit that bell, so you don't miss any other future videos as well. And so until next time, see you next time here in the Dingus Den. Bye, everybody. Thank you for watching this video. Before you go, be sure to smash that like button, subscribe if you haven't already, and share this video. See you next time, here on the Dingus Den.